Day two at Big Ten Media Days. We got Minnie Hunt on the scene in Vegas, taking in 6 teams again, coaches and players. Minnie, good to see you. How'd your day
Thank you.
go?
Good to see you. It was a long day, but so much fun. I mean, it started off with a bang. Like I said, with PJ Fleck, he's just, I mean, it's true. It's true energy, it's true enthusiasm for the Gophers. I mean, he embodies that. I'm actually more impressed with him in person than I've ever been.
Yeah, Minnesota should have another decent team coming back, although not given too much credit in regards to contention. Uh, we saw Northwestern, we saw Washington, we saw some other teams. What coaches, other coaches, stood out to you?
Um, well, I just now finished with Jed Fish, and he's a pretty interesting fellow coming from U of A. I kind of felt like I knew him because, I live in Arizona, but obviously, um, he just has his hands in all all aspects of the football program, which I thought was really interesting. Um, he actually writes down the numbers, like what with with the revenue sharing. He tells like the recruiting staff what to offer and what kind of what other what players should be making. And I thought, well, now isn't that interesting? I don't know if I am aware of any other head coaches that are that involved in the financial aspect of it, but he's like, no, I look at every part of that.
Especially since these programs have hired general managers.
I
And that,
know.
of course, is supposed to be their job. And then they hire like some type of personnel director to aid the GM. So all that accounting should be well taken care of. But Jed Fish wants his hands in on everything. And we may not want to discount Washington this year because they did lose 7 games last year. But as I like to point out to everyone, 1 year ago, after Kalen DeBoer left Washington, they went to a national championship game. I don't know that there was a coach in the history of college football that had to endure as much change as Jed Fish, meaning new head coach, new coaching staff, 21 of 22 starters gone. And for the creme de la creme, they switched conferences. So he did a fine job at Arizona, lifting a pretty dismal program to 10 wins his final season there. And a lot of people like Washington to make a splash this year.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think that there's something to that. He has something special. The reason that, he went into talking about the reason he hired Ryan Walters as his defensive coordinator. He's like, he had a top defense at Illinois. Why wouldn't I? Plus, I guess Ryan Walters' parents are from Seattle, so it just made sense. And, he has kind of that moxie, to him as a defensive coordinator. And another thing that stood out kind of has been a theme that I realized is all of these teams. So far, we've been through 12 teams of the 18. Nearly every single head coach has talked about how they look at other programs that are at the top and what they're doing. And one of the things that Jed Fish mentioned is in the college playoffs, all the teams that made it had a former head coach on staff as an assistant coach. And I hadn't realized that, but he's right.
Okay.
So that's another reason that, he wanted to hire Ryan Walters as the defensive coordinator. So,
Well, folks, we'll get Minnie Hunt here. You can catch her on Corn Nation every Monday and Thursday night, and then here at the Voice of College Football on Sunday night. She is one half of the ladies of college football, along with our friend Doreen. So again, Sunday nights with Minnie and with Doreen at 9 Eastern time. It's been a fun show
Yes.
to see launch.
Doreen is so much fun. So I texted her while I was sitting at the Luke Fickle interview. And these interviews are really kind of more private. They're nice because you can just openly ask questions. And I asked her, I said, I know Luke Fickle, he's your boy, because being from OSU, she loves that. I said, are there any questions that you want me to ask him? And she, of course, immediately, what's your favorite thing about being at OSU? Well, I didn't want to sneak that one in there yet. So we ended up settling on, what's your favorite thing about Wisconsin? Because I mean that poor coach. I've never felt bad for a team, but now I do. He's just had an uphill battle, and he said that his favorite thing about being at Wisconsin is just looking around him and seeing who's still standing when I mean you're at the bottom. And I thought, wow, to kind of admit that.
Well, few are giving Luke Fickell much of a shot this year. The schedule is difficult. The roster isn't anything too overwhelming. So they've got a trip to Alabama in week 2. So
Yes.
that's going to be a difficult one to manage.
No, he definitely has the cards stacked against him. But one of the things that he talked about, that Jed Fish talked about, is just getting bigger. Oh, Dan Lanning too. Getting bigger, just building, you know, these defensive linemen up to 330 pounds. I mean, that's basically across the board. So that's what you got to have in the Big Ten.
Scaling beyond the Big Ten, you let me know before we started to record that the talk of the town is this expanded playoff and the fairness, the inequity issue of who gets in, why they get in, and then trying to measure records when scheduling imbalances exist between specifically the Big Ten and the SEC.
Exactly. Um, it's been said over and over, I can't even tell you how many times. We play 9 conference games. Why would we go into playoffs with another conference that doesn't play 9 conference games? I mean, if if we have equality across the board, then it makes sense. Otherwise, we as the Big Ten should have the 4 automatic qualifiers. So it seems like everybody is 100% behind what Tony Petitti is wanting, and that is for things to be equal. And then if we do have the extra non-conference games, to have them be more local, they're talking about.
Meaning have them be more local. Like let's take Nebraska
Hmm.
for them to play more
So,
non-conference home games, and even if they play a road game, to keep it close to
hmm,
as close as possible to Lincoln. Maybe maybe
exactly.
play Kansas State.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
W-
So, well, yeah, I mean, that's what they were talking about. So I think it's pretty interesting, that idea.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to get resolved because you've got SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey holding firm to this 5+11 model. And then you got Tony Petitti of the Big Ten. And it's not going to look good for either one of them, even if they are legitimately brought around to the advantages, even for their league, of the other format. From a PR standpoint, it's going to look like one of them backed down if they, in fact, do back down and the other league gets its way.
That's one of the reasons why the SEC commissioner said last week that if we can't come to an agreement, the Big Ten and the SEC, that we'll just fall back on the playoff format that we used in the 24 season.
Yeah, I don't think at this point, well, there is time to recover and for those two to get together and move the needle and get something done for 2026 in terms of a 16, but it's obviously becoming less and less likely. What my thought is that yeah, we're going to continue to push this down the road and play a 12-team playoff. But these conferences obviously want to play a 16-team playoff. Otherwise, why discuss it? So they want to play 16. So I think 16 is going to get done. And I just think it's from a PR standpoint and also the logistical standpoint of the difference between these two formats and what each league is proposing. I think they're going to have to come up with a compromise. I don't think one of them is going to just outright win this battle.
Yeah, it's an interesting battle. And head coaches, they all have opinions, but at the end of the day, they're like, it's out of my hands. It's not my decision. And in 4, 5, 6 days, whatever, fall camp begins, and that's where I just have to focus on what's in front of me.
All right, Minnie, we will let you get on your way. And again, remind everyone Monday and Thursday night on Corn Nation, and then Minnie here at the Voice of College Football with Doreen on Sunday nights. And hey, for special occasions like this, Minnie out reporting for us at Big Ten Media Days.